Hello everybody. In today's lecture, we'll be talking about the positive and negative effects of biotechnology continued. So in the previous lecture, we learnt about a few positive effects and a few examples of biotechnology. And now we'll continue further with a few more examples of how biotechnology can be useful and also understand the negative effects of this field of science. The next example we have for the positive effect of biotechnology is biological pest control. This is a technique that has been derived with the help of biotechnology, and it is also called biological control, biocontrol, or biological pest control. Basically, the method that is employed here is to suppress or control the population of undesirable pests, which could be insects, animals, or plants. And this control is achieved by the introduction, encouragement, or artificial increase of the natural enemies of the pests. And this artificial increase in the population of natural enemies would be maintained at economically non-important levels. So the classic example that we have, although outside the umbrella of biotechnology, if there are a lot of rats or mice in a house, you would employ its natural enemy, that is a cat, to get rid of the rats. Likewise, you can also employ various other organisms or plants which will help the agriculturist destroy the pests without going through much of a loss. So biological pest control is an important component of integrated pest management programs, we can say. And the best examples for such biological pest control, like talking in terms of plants, you can plant basil to keep away flies or mosquitoes. You can plant thyme to keep away cabbage worm, or horseradish to keep away the potato bugs. So these plants can be grown along with those cash crops which are usually infected by any of these pests. So this is how biological pest control can be carried out, and this is how biotechnology can be of help in agriculture. The other help of biotechnology in terms of agriculture is in the employment of post-harvest technology, where once the harvesting is done, there has to be a control over the horticultural produce like vegetables and fruits in such a way that they can be retained in a good shape or in a good taste or anything before they reach the market. So this is achieved by the post-harvest technologies such as controlled ripening and temperature management. These technologies will reduce the fruit and vegetable losses that can occur to the farmers. And how will they reduce? They'll only help in retaining the freshness of the fruit or vegetable, and thereby meet the quality standards that are expected in a market. So if you went to a market to buy fruits or vegetables, you'd obviously look out for those items which are fresh and which look good to the eyes. So in order to achieve this, the post-harvest technologies come handy. Here, the ripening is controlled artificially, and this will help in the transportation and logistics of fruits and vegetables. So let us take an example of apple. Apple is widely grown in the Himalayan regions of India, be it Himachal Pradesh or Jammu Kashmir, etc. Apple requires this kind of climate and this kind of soil for its growth. Now, once these apples are harvested, and if they are supposed to be, transported to South India or exported abroad for the purpose of sale, the apples must look fresh, and the transport will usually take some time. So in order to achieve this, the apples are plucked raw and they are ripened during the transport period. And this ripening is controlled artificially by the means of traditional and modern methods, where chemicals or natural components are used to ripen the fruit. And the best example that we have here is the ethylene gas. You should know that ethylene is one of the plant hormones which is categorically produced to ripen fruits. So, you can also expose ethylene or expose the fruit to ethylene from the outside and ripen the fruit. So this is how the slow or controlled ripening occurs. Nextly, we have the fast growing trees. Now this is a quite recent phenomena where manipulation of a specific gene in certain hardwood tree species which are used for the purpose of fuel or firewood can be easily broken down and also there can be a significant increase in the growth of the tree. That is by carrying out one specific gene manipulation. So that specific gene is called the GAUT 12.1, GAUT 12.1, and decreasing the expression of this gene will result in the reduction of xylan and pectin components which are found in the plant cell wall. So by the virtue of this, it will be easier to chop off the wood to be used as fuel. Also, the tree which has got a GAUT 12.1 regulated expression will see an increased growth as compared to a tree that does not have any manipulation of the GAUT gene. So this appears to be attractive to the biofuel industry because these trees grow really quick and thereby they produce large quantities of biomass in a short period of time. So it is easier to retrieve profit out of growing such trees as compared to the conventional trees. Also, faster growing plants, as I told you, would yield more biomass over a shorter period of time. So this will make them more attractive to the growers also. apart from the biofuel industry, because there is lesser expenditure as compared to the conventional tree growth, there is lesser maintenance, and there is also quicker profit that can be generated by the use of such trees. Similar to the fast-growing varieties of trees, there are also fast-growing varieties of fishes. There is this one particular variety that has been recently approved by the FDA, that is Food and Drug Administration in the United States of America. And this variety of fish is known as the Aquadvantage salmon. And this is a variety of fast-growing Atlantic salmon. I believe you all know what is a salmon fish. And salmons are fast-growing fishes in nature. And this particular technique of producing an Aquadvantage salmon utilizes a screening procedure where the fishes that grow the fastest among the already fast-growing salmon are selected, and the genes are isolated from these fishes to produce this particular fast-growing variety. And these varieties reach a market weight in about half the time as compared to the native varieties. And for this to be achieved, they require less than 20% of the feed, and thereby decreasing the environmental footprint that is caused. So this is another important benefit of biotechnology, where it is helpful for both aquaculture and also in maintaining the food security of the nation. Now, talking about the negative effects of biotechnology. As I told you earlier in the previous lecture, biotechnology can be helpful or it can also be devastating. It only depends on how we carry out the procedure and the ethics that are employed during this period. Firstly, talking about the negative effects of biotechnology, it threatens the survival of certain species. With the advent of genetically modified organisms into the market, there can be crossing over of genes that can occur. In the case of plants, there can be cross-pollination happening. And in the case of animals, there can be crossing over of the genes. And the native varieties of these organisms might eventually vanish. So this definitely threatens the survival of certain species. And another important factor with regard to biotechnology is that it has many unknowns and gray areas. So the outcome of biotechnology is not understood on a long-term basis. Whatever we are identifying as a solution by the means of biotechnology can only provide us with short-term answers and not the long-term ones. Looking into the best example of maybe vaccination for COVID-19. We know so far that the vaccines that are produced or that are being provided do help us gain some immunity towards the coronavirus. However, there are a lot of lacunae in the reports where we do not really know if the immunity provided is applicable to all the different mutant strains of coronavirus, or the extent or longevity of the immunity that is provided, and also the side effects of vaccination in this case. So likewise, every possible biotech solution that we have has its own drawbacks and has its own unknowns. So this is one crucial factor that bothers people. And nextly, in the case of utilization of biotechnology for the purposes of agriculture, it affects soil fertility. As simple as that. And the best example here that we can have is that of the Green Revolution, where the Green Revolution saw an ultimate boom back then in the 1970s. However, people now are facing problems of loss of soil fertility and things like that by the virtue of the Green Revolution. And nextly, there is risk of cross-pollination. As I told you earlier, this risk of cross-pollination threatens the survival of certain species, and this is with a particular reference to the flora, that to the forest flora that is available. And next, biotechnology is believed to turn human life into a commodity where storage of genetic information and maybe the eventual trading of genetic information cannot be ethically acceptable. And finally, biotechnology can eventually result or aid in biological warfare. This is the next big thing that we have in hand. We have seen the atomic warfare, the nuclear warfare, and biological warfare has all its foundation in biotechnology. So this is how biotechnology can be dangerous to human beings and the other organisms that surround and that coexist with human beings. With this, I would like to conclude today's lecture. Thank you all.